Hi, this is Stuart Albertson with Albertson and Davidson, and we've seen an area of concern with beneficiaries coming to see us pertaining to oral promises to leave assets at death. And we see this in two types of trusts. The first type of trust is what we call an oral trust, meaning it's not a written trust, it's just an oral trust. It's a promise that was made by someone speaking, and that made the trust. And those are dangerous types of trust, and I'll talk about those in a second. The second type of oral promise we're seeing is where someone says to you, hey, if you'll take care of me for the rest of my life, if you'll come and pick me up and take me to my doctor's appointments, if you'll come and take me to the pharmacy to get my drugs, if you'll help me with shopping and other activities of daily living, upon my death, I'm leaving all of my assets to you. And we call this a promise to make a will or a promise to make a trust. And we see this one very often. And that's where, again, someone is offering you and telling you, I will give you everything if you help me. You follow through and you perform based upon their promise that they're going to create a trust or a will that gives you everything. You take them to doctors, you get their medical prescriptions, you help them with their activities of daily living. You're there for them as they asked you to be, and you follow through. They may have been a very good person, and they even intended to getting around to creating that will or trust they promised you that they were going to make, but they don't for whatever reason, and they pass away. Well, what are you to do? Are you to simply throw your hands up and let the other family members who perhaps had nothing to do with that individual for years come in and take away the assets that were promised to you? And the answer to that question is no. What you need to do is file a lawsuit to enforce the promise of the decedent, the person who passed away, to make that trust or will, because you performed upon that. It's a contractual promise at this point in time. So we see that more often than not. Those are difficult claims. They're not exactly easy, but it's something that we do bring for heirs based upon this oral promise to do something. Let me talk briefly about the first type of trust that I mentioned, and that was the oral trust. These are very difficult cases, and let me give you an example. This is where one friend says to another friend, hey, I've got a portfolio of stocks and it's worth $1 million. For whatever reason, I'm going to transfer that portfolio of stocks into your name, my good friend, and I'm just going to ask you upon my death that you transfer that portfolio of stocks to my two children. And your friend says, absolutely, I will hold these assets for you in my name, and I will transfer them to your children upon your death. Well, the problem arises is that when the one friend dies, the other friend's memory becomes a little foggy and fuzzy. And they say, no, I wasn't supposed to transfer these to the two children. My good friend gave these to me before he or she passed away. And this is the oral trust. This is where the one friend gave the other friend based upon a promise that these assets would be transferred down to two beneficiaries, the children, at the one friend's date of death. That's an oral trust, but very, very difficult from an evidentiary standpoint to establish at the time of court. The best way to establish it is credibility of the witnesses. And you're hopefully that you do find some witnesses who can testify that in fact the transfer was made to the friend to hold in trust based upon an oral request and then down to the children as beneficiaries. If you don't have any evidence to that, it's going to be a difficult case to win.